Secrets of the Dark Monastery. Chapter 1. The Beginning of the Journey. Deep within the dark forests of Europe, far from civilization, St. Malachius Monastery had stood for centuries. It was the autumn of 1347, and the leaves had turned from golden yellow to blood red. As young monk Theodorus walked along the muddy road leading to the monastery, he felt the weight on his back. It wasn't only the books and food in his bag. His curiosity weighed on him just as heavily. Theodorus had spent 7 years at the university in Bologna. He had studied theology, philosophy, and ancient languages. But his true passion was the knowledge forbidden by the Church. Gnostic texts, Hermetic inscriptions, the mysterious symbols of the Kabbalah, all of them offered answers to the questions that had occupied his mind since youth. What is reality? What is the nature of God? Where does the human soul go after death? The monastery appeared atop a hill shrouded in morning mist. Its stone walls were covered in moss, and its towers rose as if challenging the sky. As Theodorus approached the gate, the heavy wooden door creaked open. An elderly monk stood before him. The man's face was lined with deep wrinkles, and his eyes gleamed as if they carried the wisdom of centuries. "Theodorus, isn't it?" said the old monk, his voice echoing. "We've been expecting you. I am Frater Augustinus. The abbot wishes to see you." Theodorus stepped inside. The monastery's corridors were dark and cold. The flickering light of candles danced on the walls. They climbed a staircase and stopped before a large wooden door. Augustinus knocked 3 times in a set rhythm. "Enter," came a voice from within. Abbot Malachius sat behind a large desk. Before him lay ancient parchments, papers filled with strange symbols, and various candles. The man appeared to be in his 50s, but the exhaustion in his eyes suggested that his soul was far older. "Theodorus," said Malachius, lifting his head, "what you told me about Bologna impressed me greatly. The hunger of a young mind like yours for forbidden knowledge, admirable." "Abbot," Theodorus said respectfully, "I have come to serve you, to learn and to understand." Malachius smiled, but it was not a comforting smile. "You will learn, young Theodorus, but what you will learn may transform your soul. Some knowledge, once gained, can never be forgotten. Once you look upon the unseen world, reality will never be the same again." Chapter 2. The monastery's secret library. The first days passed quietly. Theodorus prayed with the other monks, ate silently in the refectory, and worked in the garden. But at night, strange sounds echoed from the depths of the monastery. Groans, whispers, and sometimes songs chanted in an incomprehensible language. On the 3rd night, Augustinus came to his room. "The abbot wants to see you," he said. "Come at once." Theodorus followed the old monk. This time they took a different path. They descended narrow stairs into the deepest level of the monastery. The stone walls were damp, and the air reeked of mold. Finally, they came to a hidden door. Augustinus took out a complex key from his pocket and unlocked it. Inside was a library greater than Theodorus could have ever imagined. The shelves rose all the way to the ceiling, filled with thousands of books, parchments, and manuscripts. But these were not ordinary religious texts. Their names alone were enough to send chills down one's spine. Picatrix, Clavicula Salomonis, Grimorium Verum, Sefer Raziel Hamalak. "Welcome, Theodorus," said Malachius, emerging from the shadows. "This is one of the greatest occult libraries in the world. For centuries our order has guarded this knowledge. The Church knows nothing of us. If it did, it would burn us all." Theodorus held his breath. "But why? Why hide such dangerous knowledge?" "Because," said Malachius, his eyes gleaming, "true power lies in knowledge. The Church keeps the people in ignorance to maintain control. But we know the truth. The nature of God is far too complex to be explained by Church doctrine alone. The universe is not merely good and evil. There is a gray realm in between, and in that realm dwell ancient beings, spirits, and forces." Malachius led Theodorus deeper into the library. He placed an old book on a table. Its cover was bound in human skin and carved with strange symbols. "This," said Malachius, is the Liber Tenebris, the Book of Darkness, written in the 13th century by a French alchemist. Within it are the methods for communicating with other realms. But be cautious. When you open this door, you never know what might come through. Chapter 3. The First Ritual. As the weeks passed, Theodorus sank deeper into his studies. Every night he spent hours in the secret library. He learned everything about astrology, numerology, alchemy, and magic. Malachius and the other high-ranking monks accepted him into the inner circle of the order. One winter night, as the full moon shone brightly in the sky, Theodorus was summoned to his first ritual. He was taken to a secret chamber beneath the monastery. The room was a great circular hall, its floor decorated with complex pentagrams. On the walls, 7 branched candelabras burned, and the air was thick with incense. 12 monks stood around the circle. They all wore black robes, their faces hidden beneath hoods. Malachius stood at the center of the circle, his hands raised high. "Brothers," he said, his voice powerful, "tonight we welcome young Theodorus among us. He is a brave seeker of knowledge. We shall open the doors of the unseen worlds for him." Theodorus stepped into the center of the circle. His heart pounded quickly, but he was not afraid. He was thrilled. Malachius handed him a chalice filled with a red liquid. "This is an elixir made from musk and mandrake root. Drink and open your mind." Theodorus brought the chalice to his lips and drank. The liquid was bitter, but afterward a warm sensation spread throughout his body. His vision blurred, and the room began to spin. The monks began chanting in a language that was not Latin. Their voices echoed off the walls, forming a strange harmony that sounded as if it came from another world entirely. Then Theodorus saw it. A light appeared in the center of the circle. At first faint, it soon grew bright. From within it emerged a figure, human-shaped, yet featureless. Its face was hidden, as if it were made of darkness itself. "Who is that?" Theodorus whispered. "A guide," said Malachius, "from the astral realms. It will show you the truth." The being approached Theodorus. It raised a hand and touched his forehead. Suddenly the young monk's mind exploded. Visions followed one after another. The birth of the universe, the formation of stars, the origins of life, the rise and fall of civilizations. Everything flashed before his eyes in an instant. Then he saw darker things, other beings, creatures that lived in the shadows of human history. He saw jinn, ifrits, ancient gods, and nameless horrors. And at the center of everything was a great darkness, a void, an emptiness, as if the universe itself were woven from that darkness. When Theodorus found himself again, he was lying on the floor. The monks were gone. Only Malachius stood beside him. "How do you feel?" asked the abbot. I don't know," murmured Theodorus, his voice trembling. "The things I saw, were they real?" "Reality is what we perceive," Malachius replied, "and what you saw is real enough for you." Chapter 4. Into the depths of darkness. Months passed and winter gave way to spring. But for Theodorus, the seasons no longer meant anything. He spent all his time in the secret library, absorbed in astral realms and occult texts. Each night brought a new ritual, each day a new discovery. But something had begun to change. Theodorus noticed that the other monks looked at him differently now. Some with fear, others with admiration. Even Augustinus no longer spoke to him as warmly as before. One evening, Theodorus was alone in the library. While reading a book, he heard a voice behind him. "Theodorus." He turned, but no one was there. Yet the voice continued. "Theodorus, come." The sound came from the darkest corner of the library. Theodorus hesitated, but his curiosity overcame his fear. Slowly, he walked toward the source of the voice. There, behind the shelves, was a hidden door. He had never noticed it before. It was slightly open and a faint light seeped through. Theodorus pushed the door and stepped inside. It was a small room, and at its center stood an old chest. A single candle burned atop it. Theodorus approached the chest and opened the lid. Inside was a black book. Its cover bore no writing, yet it radiated a strange energy. Theodorus picked up the book and opened the first page. The writing was in no known language, symbols, shapes, diagrams. And yet Theodorus understood it all. It was as though the book spoke directly into his mind. The book spoke of Azazel, one of the fallen angels, the being who had taught humanity the arts of war, the forging of weapons, and the secrets of the stars. And the book contained a ritual to summon Azazel. Theodorus tried to close the book, but his hand wouldn't move. A voice in his mind urged him on. "You want to know, don't you? You want to see true power, then summon me, and I will show you the deepest secrets of the universe." Chapter 5. The Summoning of Azazel. That night, Theodorus could not sleep. His mind was filled with what he had seen in the Black Book. By morning, he had made his decision. He would summon Azazel, but he knew he could not do it alone. He needed help. He didn't want to go to Malachius. The abbot might try to stop him. Instead, he approached one of the youngest members of the order, Frater Benedictus. Benedictus was as ambitious as Theodorus. He was 19, hungry for power. When Theodorus told him his plan, Benedictus did not hesitate. "Let's do it," he said. "But we must be careful. If Malachius finds out, he'll expel both of us from the monastery." That night, at the stroke of midnight, the two of them went to the secret room. Theodorus brought the Black Book, and together they drew the pentagram the book depicted on the floor. At its four corners, they placed the designated candles, and in the center, they set the incenses older than human history itself. Theodorus began to speak the words written in the book. The language was a mixture of Aramaic and ancient Greek, but some words belonged to no language at all. They were sounds not meant for the human world. The room began to grow cold. The candles flickered despite the still air, and then, in the center of the pentagram, darkness appeared. Not merely the absence of light. This darkness had presence. It was something that existed. From within it, a voice spoke, deep, thunderous, devoid of all human emotion. "Who has summoned me?" Theodorus gathered what courage he had. "I, Theodorus, I seek knowledge. I seek the truth." "Truth?" The voice mocked him. "If you wish to know truth, you must be ready to pay its price." "What do you want?" "Not your soul," the voice replied. "Only a service. In your monastery there is a sacred relic, the heart reliquary of Saint Sebastian. Bring it to me, and in return, I shall give you the secrets of the universe." Theodorus and Benedictus exchanged glances. The heart reliquary of Saint Sebastian was the holiest artifact in the monastery. Blessed by the church, believed to perform miracles. Stealing it would be an act of betrayal. But Theodorus knew he could no longer turn back. "I accept," he said. The darkness vanished suddenly. The room returned to normal. Yet in the air lingered the thick, burning scent of sulfur. Chapter 6. Betrayal and Escape. The next day, Theodorus and Benedictus devised their plan. The heart reliquary was kept in the monastery's cathedral in a drawer behind the altar. There was always at least one monk praying there. But in the late hours of the night, there was a brief window when the cathedral was empty. That night, the two slipped into the cathedral. The candles had burned out, and only moonlight streamed in through the stained glass windows. Theodorus approached the altar and opened the drawer. Inside was a small silver box. When he opened it, he found a tiny cross wrapped in ancient bone. But the moment he took it, a voice echoed from the doorway. "What are you doing?" It was Augustinus. The old monk stood frozen at the entrance, staring at them in shock. "Frater Augustinus," Theodorus stammered. I can explain." "Explain?" Augustinus's voice trembled with fury. "You're stealing the holy relic. I knew it. I knew someone like you didn't come here for prayer. You're not seeking knowledge, only power." Benedictus stepped toward him. "Be silent, old man. You wouldn't understand." "Wouldn't understand?" Augustinus gave a bitter, broken laugh. "I know more than you ever will, boy. Malachius has deceived you. This order doesn't merely preserve knowledge, it makes pacts with darkness. And now fools like you are being dragged into it." Theodorus froze, stunned. "What are you saying?" "Malachius is not human," Augustinus said. "Not anymore. Years ago, he made a pact with something. His body was taken. Now he uses this monastery as a doorway for the darkness. Suddenly, a shadow moved. Malachias emerged from behind the doorway, but his face was no longer human. His eyes were completely black, voids of darkness, and a twisted smile stretched unnaturally across his jaw. "Augustinus," Malachias said, his voice layered with multiple tones. "You always talk too much." He raised his hand. Augustinus's body flew through the air as if struck by an invisible force. He slammed into the wall and collapsed motionless. Theodorus and Benedictus stepped back, horror paralyzing their limbs. "Do not fear," Malachias said. "This is all part of the plan. You were chosen. The darkness will pass through you." Theodorus gripped the heart reliquary tightly. "No," he said, "we are not your puppets." The two fled from the cathedral, sprinting into the cold night. Behind them, Malachias's laughter echoed through the stone halls. Chapter 7. Into the depths of the forest. Theodorus and Benedictus fled the monastery and plunged into the dark forest. Moonlight barely pierced through the trees, and every shadow looked like a threat. After running for hours, they finally stopped by a riverbank. Both were gasping for breath. "What are we going to do?" Benedictus asked. "They're following us." "I don't know," Theodorus said. "But I know one thing. This heart relic, it's a weapon against the darkness." Theodorus opened the silver box and took out the cross inside. It emitted a faint light. In that moment, he understood. Azazel wanted this cross because it was an obstacle to his freedom. "We have to summon Azazel back," Theodorus said. "But this time we won't give him the cross. We'll tell him he deceived us." "Are you insane?" Benedictus yelled. "He'll destroy us." "Maybe," Theodorus replied, "but we have no other choice." The two quickly drew a pentagram by the river. Theodorus recited the words from the book again, and the darkness returned. "So, you have come back?" Azazel's voice said. "Did you bring the relic?" "Yes," Theodorus answered. "But first, a question. Why did you possess Malachias? Why use this monastery?" Azazel laughed. "Because humans always crave knowledge, and knowledge is a doorway. Every piece they learn brings me closer to this world. Malachias was merely a vessel, and so are you." "No," Theodorus said, presenting the cross. "We are not your toys, and this cross will never reach you." Azazel let out a furious scream. "Fool, that cross means nothing to me. What matters is your soul. The moment you summoned me, you created a bond, and now that bond will make you my slave for eternity." Theodorus froze in terror. Everything had been a game. Azazel had planned to trap him from the very beginning. But then something unexpected happened. Benedictus leaped forward and seized the cross. "In the name of God," he said, "I banish you." The cross shone with a brilliant light, and Azazel's darkness recoiled. With a final scream, the entity dissolved. Chapter 8. The Search for Peace. After Azazel dispersed, Theodorus and Benedictus stood in shock. The cross lay on the ground, its light now faded. "What just happened?" Benedictus asked. "I don't know," Theodorus replied, "but I think we're saved." They continued walking through the depths of the forest. When morning arrived, they reached a small village. The villagers greeted them with suspicion, but an elderly woman offered them shelter and food. Days passed. Theodorus reflected on everything he had done. His pursuit of knowledge had nearly destroyed him. Now he understood. Some knowledge is not meant for humanity. Some doors are not meant to be opened. One day, Benedictus made a suggestion. "Maybe we should go to Rome. Tell the Pope what happened in the monastery." Theodorus shook his head. "No, they wouldn't believe us, and they would likely think we were the heretics. No, there is a better path for us." "What path?" "Silence," Theodorus said. "We must learn from our mistakes and spend the rest of our lives helping others. Maybe then, our sins can be forgiven." The two stayed in the village. Theodorus taught the local children to read and write. Benedictus learned how to care for the sick. Years passed, and they lived simple but peaceful lives. But at night, Theodorus still had dreams. The Dark Monastery, the hidden library, and Azazel's voice. None of them ever truly disappeared. Chapter 9. The Final Visit. Theodorus had grown old. At 60, his hair had turned white and his body had weakened. Benedictus had died 10 years earlier from an illness, and now Theodorus was alone. One winter night, he heard a knock at his door. When he opened it, he saw a familiar face standing before him. It was Augustinus, but the elderly monk looked exactly the same. He had not aged at all. How? Theodorus murmured, stunned. Augustinus smiled. "Let me in. I have much to tell you." They entered and sat before the fireplace. Augustinus began a long story. "You thought Malachius had killed me, didn't you? But I did not die. What he struck was merely an illusion. For years I watched over the monastery from afar, because I am a member of a secret order within the church, one that fights against the darkness." "Why are you telling me this?" Theodorus asked. "Because," Augustinus said, "the monastery still stands, and Malachius is still there. He continues to deceive young monks, drawing them into the darkness, and we must stop him."